Welcome, everyone. So a short intro from Ahu. She is a transformer, accelerator, doer, enabler, an investor by trade, and entrepreneur in nature, with a focus in mobility, female leadership, and making a difference. She is the recipient of the Enterprising Women of the Year 2015 award, and she was also listed as one of the 25 top angel investors in Turkey, according to Startup Magazine Turkey. She started her career as a hedge fund manager in New York and moved to Turkey to assume the CFO position at Farplas Group in 2002, a relatively small company at that time. Since 2012, she's the president of Farplas Group, now a Fortune 500 company, a conglomerate comprised of automotive, appliance, and tourism ventures. Throughout her career, she has founded or invested in many companies that later on became success stories, such as the famous art hotel brand Casa del Arte, Hotels of Art and Leisure, Mata Automotive, producer of luxury cars and interiors for Tesla and Aston Martin. Ahu has also founded Area Women Investment Platform, named after her daughter, where she brings successful women investors and father of girls to invest in ambitious female entrepreneurs. So in short, we are incredibly lucky to have Ahu here today. And now I'll pass it on to you. I really need to get things started.
Thanks so much, Nicole. So as ever with these webinars, I wanted to begin with kind of setting the scene a little bit. We launched this Women Investor Series last year, and we did this because our mission here at Linqto is to democratize private investing, and that means for everyone. But there is really a large section of eligible investors that are not participating in private markets, which is women. So we're here to change that, and we launched this to empower women with financial literacy and access to experts and investments. And this always takes the form of a 60-minute virtual event once a month with prominent women that we can learn from, such as Ahu. So from an investment perspective, more women than ever are now investing their money. But this world is still, however, largely dominated by men. I'm based in the UK right now, and just to give you an example, in the UK, only 52% of women have 52% of women have never owned any investments, and so we hope to improve on that. A real balance needs to be restored to this ecosystem, and I feel that the cornerstone to achieving that is ensuring that there is equality of opportunity for founders and investors from all walks of life, sort of regardless of race, ethnicity, or gender. Historically, this industry has not set a very good example from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. But I believe, and this is the conversation we're going to have, that change is possible, and that the first step towards addressing the lack of diversity in our industry is to actually acknowledge it. And the second step is to have these important conversations, just like this one, to set about repairing the kind of like woeful gaps and disparity that continues to persist. So it's an enormous privilege to have Ahu here to kickstart 2023 with our first Women's Investor webinar. Ahu, I wanted to begin by asking you just to talk a little bit about you and your background. You founded Area Women Investment Platform in 2013. And for those that don't know, this is an angel group based in Istanbul, Turkey, and we're going to get into that. But as Nicole has just described, you have this fascinating background, both as an investor, also as an entrepreneur. You have this experience in mobility, luxury cars, hotels, the glass industry, hedge funds. You've kind of lived all over. And this kaleidoscopic experience is so intriguing and makes for a really interesting perspective. And actually, in preparation for this, I tried to do a bunch of research, and a lot of what I got came up in Turkish, which was a real hindrance to my research. So to everyone listening, this is a very fresh, unfiltered conversation. And I'm going to stop talking and ask you to tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are.
Oh, by surfing. Let's look behind me. I've been surfing all my life. This is really what I'm doing is so similar to surfing, and it's a very good method, because even as you get older and cannot surf in real life, this investing and entrepreneuring really enables you to surf many waves. So what I've been doing, it doesn't really matter what business I'm in or what business I started or invested later on. It is always like looking for a good wave, waiting for it, taking the wave, riding it, and sometimes coming out of the wave in time, and then waiting for the next one. So this has been basically my life. And then that's why I made it my background picture when I first established F Plus Ventures in 2016. So it's basically about riding the waves. They can be small, some smaller companies, bigger companies. What I've been very lucky with in my life is that I managed other people's money very early on. So the quest actually started with finding freedom.
Okay.
How do I reach freedom? And then freedom is very much related about economical freedom for women, I think, because when I started on Wall Street, as a woman, you can work twice as much, you can bring twice as many ideas, but it doesn't matter how much you work if your ideas are not well received or received with bias, your returns are always affected. So you don't see the result right away. So I felt the need that I needed to have my own capital to make my 100% free decisions. So all these seek for freedom, led me to find my own capital, and then start investing it and getting more out of it. Then I didn't have to fit into any description like, okay, my mandate is only small business or hotel or automotive or VC or technology. I could surf any wave that I wanted. And that's what I did. And I'm very grateful that I found that kind of freedom in my life. So it's basically surfing. And the reason, on Wall Street, what I realized early on, that the only way you can compare or compete with your male peers is about the returns. Because now I always say it in ARIA, money has no gender. So the returns and the success that you made on your capital, any man or woman can comprehend it. And then the moment you are successful, you have good returns, everybody is going to respect you, regardless of your age, gender, whatever. So that is why I became very obsessed with getting good returns. And then having even better returns, the moving on to 100% free decision making, hence my own capital. And then from there on, everything kind of led one to another. Like as I explained, one success 10 years ago may not be the success you're seeking today. So the success also needs to transform itself. And I didn't want to be bored of myself. And so all these different businesses, investments, and everything.
I really like that concept, money is genderless. To kind of borrow your metaphor and expand upon it, can you talk a little bit about the waves that you've ridden? So obviously you spent time in the hotel business, you spent time in the automotive business. I read the glass industry as well. Can you just, it's so interesting. Can you talk a little bit about that? Was that post Wall Street? Was that give us a little bit of context?
No, on Wall Street, it was a very good education, because it is literally having this macro view over the world, and it gives you a very different perspective. Also, the way people work and the speed and the amount of work that goes there. Once you are used to that pace, and then you apply it to elsewhere, whether small or big, doesn't matter. So everything becomes better. So that was very good perspective. But Wall Street also is not a free institution. It's a lot of other people's capital, hedge fund business. It's very cyclical. I really didn't like the part that for investing, you are, limited to certain time periods. You're under pressure to perform within a short period of time, because I think it really affects the investment returns in a negative way. So from there on, I moved on to, investing. Well, actually in 2002, I returned to Turkey because 9/11 had happened, and it was a very big effect on Wall Street. And at that time in Turkey, it's all like looking at the technical analysis chart. At that time, Turkey was a one-party government, had won the election. It was going to be a very good time period for Turkey. So, okay, let's move to Turkey and then try trading there. So, and I took over the family business. At that time, it was a very small company. So my analyst background also helped there, because your company can be small, but if you have a growth mindset and how you're going to grow the company outside of the traditional methods. So I started doing alliances with the other automotive companies, and the company grow from 8 million to $250 million in a very short time. But then also I started looking at underutilized assets. You know, as an individual, I didn't have enough capital. I mean, it was family business. You work there, but still you're not 100% free. You have to run everything by your family and by the board. And if they don't want to act as fast as you are stuck. So I said, okay, how do I make my own capital? So the best way is to find an opportunity that other people fail to see, or to find a broken opportunity that you take it at a good price and fix it, you know, restructuring and actually finding two opportunities. So this was the area I focused on. And I started investing in these kind of companies. And it paid very well, actually. It became even, one of them became even bigger than my own family company today. So these things actually, it's like going to the gym. The more you exercise, the more you can do. And the underutilized assets also, you look at what is available, but is of no use. So the art hotels came about from the family had some art collection that they were just putting in the warehouses. So I said, why don't we take all this art and then combine it with a property game, and then make a concept where people would appreciate both the art and the property, and it is a contribution to the presentation of our country, of that country actually. And art is like a bridge builder, you know, between countries, between cultures. So that was the starting point. And it became one of the most well-known concepts of Turkey and in Europe. Now we have one in Portugal. So, and my oldest daughter took over that business, and she's a chef. So it also became a legacy business for us. So it's been going well. And the 100% freedom part. So the family business is good. Then I've been invited to be as a board member of the biggest public company of Turkey. That's the glass industry. So I think I am one of the only private business owner who also sits in a public board. This is Şişecam, also has very big investments in the US. That's how I got involved with that industry, because they wanted somebody that thinks outside of the box and bring some innovational ideas to a giant business. So that was a very good experience for me. And lately, I established Spark Labs for innovation investing. And this is 100% mine. And I'm only investing my own money. And I'm inviting other people to invest with us if they want to, so that we can be free in our decisions, all our period of time, you know, the timing and everything. And then we can focus 100% on growing our companies.
You have this amazing background, and the thread that I've tied to all of it, just hearing you speak, is this concept of freedom and how important that is. And to kind of take that concept and talk about women investing, could you speak a little towards the vehicle area? Yes. And obviously Nicole mentioned that you named that after your daughter. But why did you start it? Why did you feel there was a need to start it? Was there a need? Just speak a little bit towards that, because it's
so
incredible.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's fair to mention that I'm the mother of 3 daughters, 3 wonderful girls, 22, 20, and 10. So, and the first 2, I was in New York, and I was working like crazy, and I only took off 1 week when I was giving birth. So from beginning to end, that was 1 week. Not because my employer forced me, because I was, you know, I felt so compelled to show that I have no difference between a man and a woman, so that they would not think of me that way. And I couldn't enjoy really to be with my kids and everything. And then when Game of Thrones came out, maybe there are some followers, and the Arya Stark, and then I was watching, the first episode on, I didn't know that she was gonna save the world at that time, but I was like, oh my God, she's so amazing, so small, and nobody really knows she exists, but she's so strong. And then women are all born this way. We are like that up until like high school. And then something starts happening to us, and then we start falling behind. And said, what if we can create a world where women as leaders can put their stamp on? So if we could transform the world through female leadership like Arya. And then I was also thinking, if I have another girl, I had no doubt that I would have another girl, that I would name her Arya. And at close to 40, I had Arya. And of course, that was a sign, and I also named her Arya. So everything came together. I think also in a women's world, it's also in a very spiritual way. We question a lot our purpose, our being, but we are also very bothered of all these stresses and pressures that the outside world is putting on, and we cannot get rid of them. So you need a community where people can help each other, talk to each other, they don't judge, and inspire. So I wanted to create that kind of community, and Arya came about in 2012. It was first a network, then it became an accredited angel investing network. And lately, as of this year, we have established the first gender lens investing fund of Turkey, with the biggest bank of Turkey again. The first closing we made at $10 million, and we're going to increase it. And we are investing in companies with at least one female founder. Okay. So we said what women are doing differently is inclusivity. We are very inclusive people. So we cannot also say we're only investing in women. We're investing in diversity, and we are being role models for inclusivity. And on the investor side, you are right, a lot of women, when I asked my female friends, let's invest together, what they wanted to do is buy an apartment and share the rent. And that's the only thing, that's the safest thing that they can do, even the ones with money I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So we have educational programs to learn how to invest, also to learn from the best who are investing. So every month they see 3 startups. We have an investment committee. They ask the question, they can listen how the process goes. We have formal programs. So we are more than 350 members around the world now. And in 2 years, we are going to go up to 1,000. That's our growth rate. So we're growing, and it seems like there's now big companies, big corporates started investing in Arya as well, because they are realizing that diversity and inclusivity is very important. And also women are, first of all, as an asset class, we are also very underutilized. The world is not using even half of its potential by not focusing on women. Yeah. So that's one. And 2, companies are not focusing on women enough as a consumer class. So we are not just people to sell fashion products and the others, but we affect a lot of buying decisions in the family. And I think women need to be more aware of this power that we hold, and we should use it more effectively. So these are the things that we've been doing at Arya, and it's growing enormously. And I'm very proud. I think to date, I can say that this is my biggest achievement, because for an entrepreneur, you can start as many companies, but if you can start a social business, social venture that is successful and sustainable, maybe I will discover more forms of success to go forward. But this has been my best one so far.
I mean, you absolutely should be proud. I cannot also believe that you took 1 week off when you gave birth. But I wanted to actually touch upon that. A friend of mine, he recently asked me whether I found it difficult to be a woman. And the answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. And I've been spending time thinking about the difficulties in working life in tech and finance. I think as a woman, there are many, many obstacles to overcome, even though there have been obstacles that we have overcome, but there are still many more to go. I, for one, have suffered from things like an implicit bias, or concerned about traits that are considered sort of diametrically opposed, or a self-consciousness that you feel you're representing your entire gender, that oftentimes translates into working twice as hard, which I feel is emblematic of you taking 1 week off. And this is obviously not a unique experience, and there are a host of other obstacles, but touching upon some of the examples I've given, what do you think the challenges are right now when it comes to women in investing? Is it a lack of knowledge? Is it fear? Is it stereotypes? And then also, what are the strengths as well? Because it's important to view your status as a strength, not just as a stigma. So intrigued to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you're right. Well, actually, the idea came to my mind because I was investing with the biggest angel group of Turkey, all guys, just me.
Yeah.
So first of all, 1 is a very lonely number. And what I felt there, and they're very friendly and they love me. They love women. They want more women to come. We can't find any women, even the wealthy ones, they don't want to come and be in that environment. Then I realized that because I'm coming from very male-dominated industries, automotive and then Wall Street, and before I went to a mostly male German school. So I realized that I didn't really felt these things, but the other women did. So 1 is a lonely number. So you cannot be just one person and then say, I'm okay with it. It's hard. And I felt like I felt in my Wall Street days, in the investment meetings, when I had an idea, they say, they listen and, oh, that's a good idea. But, and then, John, what are you thinking? And nobody wants to listen to you because you're one. This effect is a lot. And then that needed to be, overcome. And I think these women investing groups are helping to do that, because what men are mostly doing, what I observed, it's like hunting, they go hunting together, investing in, angel investing. It's very similar to hunting together. You go, you hunt together. Not that everybody is very avid investor and they have done their DD. One guy says one thing, the other completes, and then the other completes, and then there's a group. So it is a very collaborative activity. And I think this, yeah.
No, you finish your sentence.
Yeah, I think this collaboration and then this need also then this courage to take the risk together. This was missing because women are very separate individuals, because we have our families and then we have to take care of them. It's coming from biology. But it can evolve. Everything can evolve, so we can too. And then we needed to learn to hunt together, and we need these environments. This is, I think, one of the very important things, and to trust each other. I don't think men, I've been a decision maker in a lot of the male-dominated environment. I don't think they're the best decision makers. Mm-hmm. They just like to decide together. And sometimes that collaborative decision also is not the best. So what I like in women is that if they don't like something, they can just say what it is, what they don't find. And then they care also for the interests of others a lot. So if something is not ethical or doesn't sit well with them, they are very good in voicing it, but they need the right environment. That's why businesses need more women to do that.
So I was trying to look at some stats as to the disparity between founding, investment in women founders, etc. And I came across something that I thought was quite interesting, which was a Merrill Lynch study showed that women are far more likely than men to say that they had lower levels of financial knowledge. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, that is a strength. So for me, and I don't want to stereotype, but it's similar to the concept of stopping and asking for directions, and the stereotype that men don't do that, and women do. And I personally love asking for directions. One, because it's so much quicker than me working it out myself. But two, and whilst I really don't like admitting that I don't know something, when I ask for help, I make more connections along the way, which kind of brings me to this concept that you touched upon earlier, which is community. And community means different things to different people, but it's about collecting around an idea. That can be like a religion, a hobby, a philosophy. But this group today is a community. It's kind of like identity. And it's based on shared circumstances. It's also how we learn from one another. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like why does community matter to you so much? Can we view other questions through the lens of that community?
When I was observing, to build Aria took a long time. It wasn't just an overnight experience happening. So I spent time with a lot of women, old, young, rich, mid-rich, from an investing perspective I'm talking about. And then they all had like you said, if they don't know something, they don't want to get into it first. They are very open to learning, but also they need to find the right environment to learn. So they are not like what I did. I said, I'm going to learn this internet investing. So I'm going to get into this venture group. And I was the only woman. And then nobody showed up afterwards because it is a very hard environment to exist. So that's why you need a good environment who doesn't judge you, because women are also, they're very detailed. They ask too many questions, and that can be seen as a stupid thing in another group. So what we are giving to our investors and members, there is no stupid question. Just ask anything. You can ask anything. But what I really don't like, also one weakness of women, I think, they don't read well. You are provided all these information, and then they come and ask the same question sometimes. And then I say, well, maybe you should study a little better. And I'm talking especially successful women, because they have also, they are used to not doing the legwork anymore. So, but learning something always involves doing the legwork. And we need to be able to, how successful we are. We need to be able to go back to the basics, leave our egos on the table, and then restart. But they can ask any questions, and then the other more advanced people ask questions. They can listen them getting the answers and everything. So that the environment is important. And then I think then practicing. I always tell my friends, if you want to start, yes, learning is good, but you have to start. And the sooner you start, and it doesn't matter whether you lose that money or not, just see it as an MBA program. And then you will learn, you invest in a startup or one or two companies, and then you go along with their journey. It is as good as going to a good, program in a school. So, and then that investment they should see, even if they lose it, they should see as an investment in themselves.
Yeah, and I think that concept of ego, you've got to put aside your ego to be able to ask those embarrassing questions that you think are stupid. And that is like a very important trait to have. Touching upon what you said earlier about women functioning as individuals, it's really interesting, because it used to be that people were born way back as part of a community and had to find their place as individuals. And now people are born as individuals and have to find their community. So having vehicles and places to converse, such as Aria, is super important for that. I wanted to touch upon the Turkish market and what the landscape looks like. So I did some digging. Turkey has an 82 million population. Apparently the average age is 31. It is the 6th largest market for Instagram. And it's a hub for startups. For those that don't know, it's produced a decacorn, which is, please let me know if I've got the pronunciation wrong, called Trendyol, which is backed by It's backed by Alibaba. It has a valuation of 16.5 billion.
With a
Three
female co-founder.
With a female co-founder. It has 3 unicorns, Peak Games, Dream Games, and Getir, which I think many people would have heard of, which apparently means bring.
Bring.
Yeah, if you translate it. And that has a valuation of 11.8 billion.
Yeah.
And what I found quite interesting, that our investments are predominantly in the crypto, delivery, e-commerce, and fintech and gaming sectors, which I found really interesting.
Yes.
Could you elaborate? Well, A, am I right? Am I wrong? But B, can you elaborate on what you're seeing in that kind of
Just
market?
imagine if it didn't say Turkey on your research, and then you read all those things. What would you think? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. It's an amazing country. You know, Turkey has a lot of prejudices and bad publicity, politics and everything. But when you look at these figures, really, it's a very big country with a very young population, very adaptable to new technologies and of the world. They're very eager. Female factor, out of these 4 or 5, actually there is also Insider. So Peak Games and Pete Games, no, sorry, that's Pete Games, and Insider, also a female co-founder. So women are also very active, very strong. So fintech, gaming, last mile delivery, like you said, and e-commerce, and mobility, because it has been an automotive producer hub for Europe for many years. So it's transitioning. So it's an amazing resource to me, to an investor. I invest globally, and what Karim has said, for example, in 2016, we were very heavy investing in the US, in Israel. So, and they were also very good times. And then we did our exits towards the end of 2019-20. So those were also very good harvesting times. But then I said, it's very overvalued, you know, all the rest of the market. So let's focus inside, because there's so much value. And this is also an overlooked asset, Turkey. And these are where the opportunities are. So I also focused my own investments, both in gender lens, that's obvious, but also in mobility and low emission assets, so climate technologies, towards Turkey at the moment. But what we do is we invest in these companies and we take them global. We either bring them to States or to Europe for their other rounds of funding, so that they globalize. So to me, it's a very interesting market. Of course, in every market, you know, we also look at the Korean market and Chinese market, different emerging markets, in these kind of new emerging technologies. If you want to be present in these markets, I would always advise to find the right partner to do it with, rather than just doing 1 or 2 isolated, you know, venture investments.
Yeah, it's interesting because I read that Trendyol with the woman co-founder, that was backed by Alibaba. And then Getir is just successful in so many international markets.
Yes. Getir is the last mile delivery platform company, and now they're also in the US. They penetrated to Europe. So, and the founder is also a very successful founder in other businesses as well. So he has been in the market for more than, I think, 15 years. So, like, you know, in Silicon Valley, it took more than 50 years for the valley to develop and to come to places. So the rest of the world in these places also need time to produce the best results. Success produces other successes. And I think Turkey, in that sense, is going to be a very successful country. I'm lucky that, you know, I could have been born somewhere else. But having that specific knowledge, and then, but also having the ability to take all these things to global. I think that's the missing part now for a lot of the Turkish startups. And this is the gap that I'm trying to bridge. We have an office in Korea. Now we'll have an office in Michigan, to bring all these startups, and then we bring them to Europe. Europe is very close, so we can move pretty quickly.
And that's super interesting, because it's, you know, you have an office in Korea. There's a real need to understand the cultural differences when you're moving into these markets. Bringing it back to the differences between men and women, what value can be created from having this diverse workforce? So having sort of a balancing act between founders that are men and female, male and female. What value can be generated from that?
I think it's immense. When you stop judging, the real productivity starts occurring, actually. And it's not only for men and women, any kind of diversity. I think also in terms of the task diversity and skill diversity. Like in the automobile sector, it used to be only engineers doing the job. No, you need everybody. You need engineers, you need industrial designers, you need sociologists, anthropologists, technology software people now to come together and to create something. So forming that collaborative intelligence is very important. And that's why women are even more vital, because women are better at connecting the dots than men. So I think there is this new skill set that is needed by the world, and women could be really good in it. And I think a lot of the companies will also start seeing that need. They say, okay, chief people officer. Now I have a chief connecting officer who's a female engineer who's wonderful with people. So it's important to do these things. And I think that's where the value, added value of another gender comes to be recognized.
Yeah, and you touched upon decision making. You mentioned that men aren't very good decision makers.
I didn't say, yeah, they are very fast decision makers, which is good, but
that's what I was going to ask.
Not always very mathematical.
Yeah. And do you think that's a quality that is very, women taking their time to make a decision? That is something that men would benefit from doing so as well?
Yes and no. I think fast decision making is very important. If you haven't read the Ray Dalio's book for principles, he talks about how he makes decisions. It's really important. He said, for every subject that I don't know, I have in my mind, I have 3 people who I know knows that subject very well. So I go to them, I ask their opinions. So, and then after that, I really don't, I'm very similar. I don't really need to delve into this very specifics and learn everything myself. If I trust those 3 people on that subject, I take their conclusion and make it a variable in my decision making. But it's just a variable. So you have to take all the variables and put together. So this is the mathematical approach. But in order to be mathematical, you don't need to be doing it, 20-page Excel sheets and stuff. So I don't mean that. It should become intuitive afterwards, after all. I think what men are very good at, they're brave. So sometimes making any decision is better than no decision at all. So that's where I can give them the credit. And females, we are very thorough and sometimes too much. So there needs to be a balance. That's why if the 2 teams come together, from different genders, they can produce better decisions, better results, I think.
And then it goes back to that idea of community. If you're delegating to the other 3 people that you think are the most important, who specialize in that area, it's about having like the right network around you. Yeah.
You know how they used to say, you are the average of the 5 people around you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Why 5? It needs to be million. Now the technology permits us to have millions of people around us, and then you can actually qualify them. They don't need to be clueless 1 million people. You can really get a hang of the smart people. You have I call it my better future network, because I say I'm a better future investor. So I invest in those assets, and then I have a network from the same kind of people who want the same thing, but specialized in different things. So sometimes, when we're doing a DD on hydrogen membranes, for example, okay, it's very specific. So if I already know the 2 people who are experts in this, I just call them or I write to them, and then I get a thorough assessment within 10 minutes sometimes. So sometimes rather than doing everything, the long way and the proper way, this network helps so much. But of course, you have to build that trust and the confidence in that person's expertise and everything. And it takes time, and it takes taking an interest in people and talent. And what I think all leaders should be expert in taking an interest in talent and building it, listening to it, and finding it.
You're stopping and asking for directions.
Yes, exactly.
So we have a question from the audience that I think is pretty relevant to us now. From Rola, it says, what kind of challenges did you face that made it difficult to remain in your feminine energy while still being a businesswoman? How did you cope with these challenges? Was there a support system also that made it easier?
I wonder sometimes whether I been able to remain in my feminine energy. I don't know. That's why I always keep my hair long, try to make sure. But it's difficult. I sometimes feel I'm really out of the feminine energy. It's not about the looks. The looks, you can look like a woman, but then sometimes inside there are so many problems, so many things to take care of. So, and you have to push your feelings aside.
Yeah.
And then say, I'll deal with them later. I'm the oldest child of my family in the family business. My mom died. And then what I told myself, I'm really upset, but I have to represent my mom the way she wanted me to. And then I have now the whole family, my father and the family business to take care of. So I'll worry about myself later. I put it back. And then I acted like a professional daughter for a couple of years. And then it hit me much later that I actually postponed myself. I didn't take care of myself about my grief. So all those things happen. I'm not going to say I have this perfect methodology. I just have the, even as a woman or a man, we are here to make results. So I try to focus when something is bothering me. I'm like, okay, I have to take care of this. But the other part, like my family and the balance of my family, is a key factor to my success as well. So I'm trying to make more time for them. It's not so easy. Yeah. So I don't know. It's really, I'm also confused many times about the subject. It's very hard to be a woman. The world is, I think, both us as women and also the world is just recognizing what women can accomplish. It was just 1934, for example, that we got the right I think in Turkey it was 1928, the right to have a last name and then the right to vote. It was one of the first countries. It has been not much, what have we been doing in the past 1,900 years? So this is our century, and the world is not ready for a lot of these female things, and we are also discovering ourselves. And Turks, it's not also easy to be a woman in Turkey. But what I'm also realizing that once they see you successful and representing the country well, they start supporting, and they're very proud to have women in good places. What I'm telling to our government is that if you want to promote your country, Turkey, we are the best thing that they can promote. Turkish women, strong, resilient, they get everything done. Very educated women. So I think also sometimes we need to market our kinds as well and sometimes they don't see us as an opportunity. Maybe we should remind people that females, women are an opportunity for the world. If they see it, they jump on the bandwagon. So I hope it's good, Rola. Yeah, I tried my best.
You did amazingly. I think it's also talking about marketing. I think a lot of women I've noticed when they're trying to compete, they act and hold themselves in a more masculine way. And I find that really interesting. And actually these masculine, feminine qualities, you said you managed to push the emotional side behind and just act and step up and be the,
That's
you know,
very masculine. Yeah.
it's a very masculine thing to do, but you did it at the detriment of your own actual, like, postponing your grief. And it's very hard to know at what point you should, because both are not bad, but it's very hard to know the balancing act of that. And as you
It
said,
really helps with the business. Sometimes imitating men, you know, it's really good because they are very successful in some of the things. So why can't we take them as role models?
Yeah.
As long as you can get in and out of these roles easily and make a balance. But as you said, you know, a lot of women, the success path, because we only have male models and the way to becoming successful like a man, so we imitate that. But then I think as we become successful, we need to learn from these successes. We are more strong and now independent to create our own style. So let's put a bit of femininity into, you know, the female language. For example, in my company now, I have men coming to us and say, oh, I'm so close to giving birth. We have birthing rooms. So if there's an idea that is going to turn to venture, you know how in the hospitals, if it's a boy, you have this blue thing. And then when an idea in a company is born, we make a newborn sign to the door.
I love that.
Yeah. And so everybody can give birth in the company. It's not just women, and men are getting, you know, used to this language. And, you know, all these female language needs to come to the corporate world. And now that I'm in a position to create whatever language I have in my company, why should I imitate other men? I can do it my way. And I think that's what we strong women and more advanced investors, we should also create our own ways. My title in the company, everybody can take their own title. My title is Mother of All Things.
I love that.
I took it myself because this is my style. You know, I love all my, every company, every entrepreneur. They're my kids. I protect them to death. But if they do something wrong, I also beat them up like a good mother in Middle East and Turkey. You know, not beating up like in, but we have this terlik is the slipper thing. You show your child the slipper. It's coming, and then they get all straight. So they know, but they also know that everything I do is for them, for their goodness and stuff. That's my style, and I'm really not concerned what other companies think or what other people think of me. So I think this is the stage we all need to come, and add more femininity to our world. Not be afraid of talking about these things. No.
Yeah, and being open. And actually, that's what Rola says. She says, thank you for your honesty and my complete respect to your accomplishments.
Thank you.
We have a question, and actually you've touched upon this slightly already, but Shelley says, we're seeing the proliferation of female founders in the US and sounds like in Turkey too. Do you see this trend transcending Turkey in that region of the world? And what cultural attributes do Turks have that makes them so innovative, do you think?
Yes. So I start with the last one. Well, we see so many crises in our country every 10 years. Is like it's full of crisis. And despite of all these crises, this country manages to remain intact. And the people have this optimism. Even if they leave the country for a while, they always come back. They have this love for the country, resilient and very flexible. We learn fast from other cultures. You know, so for example, Japanese cultures and German culture is very dominant in Turkey. We have German schools, French schools. A lot of Turkish people go to those things and they know the culture. Then they work for French companies, German companies in Turkey. So we are very receptive to taking different cultures and different ways of working. So that's why Turkish people make very good professionals in other parts of the world. And I think the world just discovered that too. We have a big exodus of Turkish professionals moving outside of the country. That's good. So when we go to a company, for example, the CEO, the former CEO of Coca-Cola was a Turkish gentleman, Muhtar Kent. So they can be a world-class professional with the flexibility of mind of a Turkish person. So crisis management, because we are so used to managing crises as well. and very success driven, very intrinsically motivated. I think that is also becoming a problem in the world, that you don't find many things to motivate. People are not motivated to work harder. So we still have that in Turkey, and I like that. Yeah, what was the first question? Sorry.
You answered it already. We're seeing the proliferation of female founders in the US, and sounds like in Turkey too.
Yeah. I think females are being reborn, and this is our century all over the world. And my goal is also connecting with all these females, because we can help each other. It doesn't have to be only the females of Europe, females of MENA. We are stronger together. So, Kareem appeared. So I think it's our time to wrap up.
It's time to wrap up. I have one more question before I'm giving the reins to Karim. Which resources would you recommend? I know we've touched on a couple of books like Ray Dalio's Principles, etc. But is there any kind of like go-to resources that you think are really important that people should know about?
Oh, so many. First of all, a podcast. I don't know if you guys know Tim Ferriss. He has this tools for Titans. He just published his 100 best books from his prominent entrepreneurs. So I think I read about half of them. Also, whichever books he recommends, he also takes them as podcast guests. So amazing source. I love Peter Thiel. 0 to 1. There's so many books to read. Reading and learning is very good, but I always recommend start exercising right away. So it teaches much more than reading the books. And then along the way, you can read all the books also. Everything needs to become non-linear in this world. So don't wait out until you know everything. Yeah.
You got to surf all the waves.
Yeah.
Karim, you're on mute.
Ahu, yeah, thank you so much. I've been so enlightening. What I really like as being an audience and participatory in the audience way today was you are so comfortable and relaxed in your own skin and so authentic, and that comes across really powerfully. So I just wanted to say that.
I worked hard on it.
I really
not easy for a woman being comfortable.
No, my God, I'm sure. I mean, I've been in situations where I was one man in a women group, and it was very uncomfortable. So I can imagine the other side even more so. So I understand that. But I wanted to close out with one question. We've, when the US developed a lot of these e-commerce companies and transportation or delivery companies, then we had a follow-on in all the countries, China and India and various in Asia, with follow-on companies that were similar derivatives of this. I think we may have come to a stage whereby now we're looking, and one of the poll questions was, what kind of returns are you looking for? What kind of companies you want to invest in? And predominantly the response was, we want to invest in high impact companies. And I don't mean environmental impact, I mean technological impact companies. So what are the technologies you see emerging today that we should be paying attention to?
Okay, I'm personally looking into mobility, because there is a big transition going from the automotive to mobility. And I think a lot of the automotive OEMs need to learn how to transform themselves. And if they don't, it's not going to be very good for them. There are a lot of new challengers, Tesla and the likes, so many different EV. Micromobility is an emerging sector. It's going to transform itself even much more differently than we see today. So we're all talking about these scooter litters and stuff, bird losing the value and everything. Yes, this is the problem at this time, but it doesn't mean micromobility is not here. These companies were the challengers, and they're the new competitors to the car industry. So I like to keep the tabs on them. And so that's important. I think last mile delivery of services is becoming, there are so many undiscovered areas. And thirdly, as I said, climate technologies, low emission assets. So technologies, that are good for the world and also related to energy. Because it's good to go to the electrical cars, but it's not good if you are still making your electricity out of traditional fuels. So you need to find new sources of energy. So energy is going to transform itself also completely. That I really like. Also in the life sciences, we have some investments, and we also invest with the funds we think who will invest better than us, and just keep tabs. And also an opportunity is that, we talk about the overvalued market. So a lot of them already made it to the stock exchange and they're public now. And a lot of these companies' stocks are on the floor, not doing too well. Again, this doesn't mean some of the good ones are still there and they provide good value. So we are also looking into these companies, which one of these companies are going to make it to the future, and whether we can invest early enough in them. This is my
wonderful.
Yeah,
there is so much there. I think what we want to do, Irene and Ahu, is get back together at a certain point, actually dig deeper into these emerging technology companies, because as I said before, we're looking to deploy $100 million this year, and we do want to pay attention to these emerging companies, especially if we can get them, in the valuation of $200 to $400 million range. Do some secondary investment in there as well, and then as I said before, if there are people that we can find, employees, ex-employees, founders of companies who may want some liquidity today, we want to discover who those people are, and we can help them as well, and we're looking forward to that. So let's get together to explore that a little bit more soon. But thank you. It's been such a pleasure having you. I really appreciate that. I know the rest of the Linqto team here really appreciates your time, effort, and willingness to come. I will be touching down in Florida in the next 48 hours, and then we'll get together, if you're still in Boca, to at some point for us to get together.
I would love that. And thank you for having me. And I hope it was a good session for all of you. And I'm also very glad to get to know your team and looking forward to do things together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.